In the last lesson, we talked about angle measures and how to find them, how to classify them, and things of that sort. And so then in this lesson, what we're going to do is take those angle measures and see how they relate to angle relationships. So we're going to identify and use special pairs of angles, and then we're going to identify perpendicular lines. So there's quite a bit of vocab, and it's really important that you have this. So I'm sorry it's a lot of writing, but you have to know these things inside and out. So starting with adjacent angles, so the word adjacent means next to, so two angles who share a side and a vertex. So MNP being angle MNP right there, and then PNQ, which would be this angle right here. Those are considered adjacent because they share a side, being ray NP, and then their vertex is N. Now, a linear pair is a special type of an adjacent angle because adjacent angles are side by side, but the linear pair is going to make a straight line with its non-common rays. So they're opposite rays here, and so they are a linear pair because they are adjacent and they make a straight line down at the bottom. Now we have vertical angles, and those are two non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. And so what I'm going to do is just highlight them the inside. So QRS right here and URT, those are vertical angles. And you'll kind of notice it makes a V, right? Kind of trick to remember how they work and how they set up. And then SRT, whoops, and QRU, those two are also vertical angles. And another thing that you need to write down is the fact that vertical angles are congruent. So those two right there will be congruent to one another, and these two here will be congruent to one another as well. Then we have the term perpendicular, and you may remember this from like pre-algebra or maybe even algebra little, but they are lines, rays, and segments that form four right angles. So they intersect and form four right angles. In text, you will see something like this. So an example of that could be something like AB is perpendicular to EF, and so that would be two segments. So A, B, and EF, and they are perpendicular. And then our symbol in pictures, so I guess that kind of comes right over here with the picture, is that this indicates that they're perpendicular. And really and truly, when you know that this one is a right angle, you know that all four of them are going to end up being right angles as well. So just something to keep in mind. But knowing these two things, what does this mean in a picture? What does it mean if it's written out in this form right here? So that way you can apply it when necessary. Our next two terms are complementary and supplementary. And so complementary is just two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So they don't have to be connected. So this would be an example of them being side by side. These are adjacent angles, by the way. And these are non-adjacent because they are not connected at all. And then supplementary would be two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. So again, this is an adjacent example. And this over here is not an adjacent example, but still adding up to 180 degrees. Now, the way that I remember these is that complementary forms a corner, C and C. Supplementary forms a straight line, so S and S. And that is how one little trick you can use to remember which is which. And that way when you see the word, complementary, you're not trying to decipher between the two or trying to have to memorize it a whole lot. Other than complementary is a corner, supplementary is a straight line. And that'll help you with the vocab there. Okay, so now I'm just going to do one really quick example just to show you how to use this information. How do we set these things up? What do they even mean? And so in this case, we're going to find X and Y so that PR and SQ, the lines, PR and line SQ, are perpendicular. Well, perpendicular means that it's going to form a 90-degree angle. So we want line PR, which is right here, to make a 90-degree angle with SQ, which is right here. So what information do we have? Well, if that's a 90-degree angle right there, then so is this, and so is this, and then of course so is this. So we have 4 right angles actually. So really, even though we have that one marked here, we can mark all 4 of them, or you can make it one big box if you wanted to. And so what that means then is that the measure of angle STW plus the measure of angle WTR has to equal 90 degrees because the lines are perpendicular, right? So STW, which is right here, let me highlight it for you, STW is 2x, so I'm going to plug that in here, plus then we have our second angle of WTR, which is right here, which is 5x plus 6 equals 90 degrees. So that gives us 7x plus 6 is 90. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides of my equation, so I get 7x equals 84. Then I'm going to divide by 7 to get x equals 10, 11, 12, I believe, right? 7. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so you can ignore that. See, even math teachers have little brain farts. All right, so we get x is 12. So what we need to do really is just check that. We want to make sure that that's actually going to work. So if we were to plug in 12 here, we would get 24, right? 24 degrees. If we plug in 12 here, we get 5 times 12, which is 60, plus 6, which is 66 degrees. And 24 plus 66 is in fact 90, so we know that x is correct. Okay, so we have our x value. That's good. Now we need our y value. Well, the y value and the placement of it is PTQ. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this first. And then if you just look at the placement of that angle is 90 degrees all on its own. So if it's 90 degrees all by itself, then we can just take and say the measure of angle PTQ is 90 degrees, right? So now just plug in your information, which is 4y minus 2 equals 90. Add 2 to both sides to get 4y equals 92. Divide by 4. And we end up getting y equals, 23, I believe. All right, I gotta check it again. 12, carry the 1, 8, 9. Yep. All right, so 23. And so again, we could plug it back in here. 4 times 23, I already did it, 92. And 92 minus 2 is 90. And so that does in fact check out to give you y is 23. So those are your angles. All right, so that is kind of it for this video. I know it's kind of short and sweet in terms of the examples, but just making sure that you know how to use the vocab and you understand the vocab. We will work more with it in class.